Hi everyone! Uploading a rambly video again today. Sorry, this one might get a little personal and very bleak, but I have ideas for Let's Plays I want to do and will get to them, but I've just been too nervous for personal reasons and now I'm worried if I start something, I might not be able to finish it. So, it's no secret that all across the globe right now, governments and large digital platforms are coordinating to ID everyone who uses the internet and track them using algorithms and AI. This isn't some weird conspiracy theory. This is something that's been in the works for decades and is currently being put into legislation as we speak. I've watched and grieved the slow decline of the free internet for well over a decade now, and each step that's brought us closer to this point has given me more to miss as time goes on. Sure, the internet evolves and companies get more greedy. We've been watching our rights erode beneath us as tech companies gluttonously swelled to obscene sizes for some time now, but there's always been that small hope that things might turn around for us. But I fear we're about to hit a point of no return, and that's gonna hit like a wall. So for those of you who aren't aware, there are a bunch of legal battles going on right now to strip you of your right to use the internet under the guise of protecting the kids. Some of these include social media and YouTube bans in Australia, the Online Safety Act in the UK, the Kids Online Safety Act in the US. Bans in the UK seem to be affecting the EU as well, and all of these markets are being targeted by governments globally, and corporations are falling to the way the wind seems to be blowing and changing their systems to avoid hefty fines while continuing operation. Most of these changes involve you giving your ID to every single corporation that could potentially have sensitive material as content. Originally, they wanted to target not safe for work materials, however this affects everything, and I do mean everything. Spotify is threatening to delete accounts who don't verify, YouTube is restricting accounts based on AI's best guesses, and even Wikipedia is unsure if it'll survive this global push of legislation. We are losing access to some of the best free media that society has ever put forward, and being tracked for the rest of the web we still have access to. Smaller forums and sites for niche hobbies and interests will be heavily restricted and legislated, disproportionately to larger entities with substantial initial fines that mean basically nothing to larger players that these laws will target. Your ability to make dumb websites and host them without double-checking local and international laws will basically be non-existent. Services around this that provide legal counsel and services to allow for identification will begin to crop up all over the place, I'm sure. As a weirdo who's grown up on the fringes of society my whole life, using the internet to connect with others who share interests and actually make meaningful friends, connections, share silly content that otherwise couldn't exist. Seeing the death of such a beautiful ecosystem as flawed as it is simply heartbreaking in ways I can't even begin to describe. I don't have a lot of faith in humanity given everything that we see in the news and in our day-to-day lives. Sometimes our technology and ingenuity as a species, though, is the only thing that keeps me going, and hopefully things will get better. But I think it's time to wake up and face the music. It's not going to get better. Radical change would have to be made, and fast, and globally against all of the powers that be. If things were to change, we'd need people to show up with the millions to our government buildings, regularly and loudly until they'd submit, providing that said governments don't just shut things down with tear gas and rubber bullets anytime things get too crazy. I'm learning to accept that this probably won't happen. We might see outcry, but we won't see change. The powers that be have decided to co-opt the technology meant to liberate us, and the way we communicate as a species, and turn back the dial on our progress for the sake of greed and I guess the control of population. Like, I know I'm a control freak, but this is pretty excessive, right? It's especially hard to accept this as I just started to really enjoy creating videos here. I've only gotten the chance to make a few and I've loved them. I might continue to try and post things here, but honestly, with the way things are going, it's hard to be optimistic about it. It feels like I'm just putting things out into a void where AI reigns supreme and algorithms, and most of the people who watch my videos will probably just get false flagged for no other reason than AI sucks. And even if it gets better, it's going to intentionally suck by design by that point. But like I've said before, I'll just keep making videos, even if nobody ever gets to see them. Just because I'm not optimistic about that future doesn't mean I should let my pessimism fully drag me into that dark place. If you have access to private servers and are good with hosting networks, then your skills might become very handy going forward. For everyone else, for the sake of us moving forward and preserving media that we love, try to find copies of art that you adore and pack them up. Games, movies, whatever it may be that you love, try and store it locally, because that may be a piece of history that only are kept with a handful of people who share that same passion. We're seeing horror games like Mouthwashing be delisted from Steam, and a bunch of content from itch.io has just vanished as well. Anything that seems vaguely problematic is something that may disappear, so treasure everything you have and keep it well if you have the space. And even though anonymity is fading and content that we rely on is disappearing, just remember we're not really ever going to be truly isolated. It will feel that way more and more as time goes on, with less information to access, less games to play, and we're force-fed gray corporate slot to consume until our overworked bodies begin to decay. There's still other people on the other side of the internet though, you know? Like, we may lose a lot, but not all is gone. Hold on to your friends, find alternate methods of communicating if your major platforms fail you, and know that there's always a workaround for BS. ISPs will continue putting pressure on VPN companies to close up shop, but we'll always be able to host our own VPNs and use direct connections through browsers like Tor. Development for private browsing is something you can learn and contribute to, as there's plenty of open source software for us to tinker with. With a little effort, you can forward your own private servers and networks and have like-minded friends and people connect to you. Things will become less secure, but overall, decentralization may be one of our best concerted efforts we have at holding on to our communities. As far as I'm aware, hosting your own servers privately and sharing information with friends is a legal practice, and one that is basically impossible to fully legislate. So let's make use of these tools and do what we can, because the future of the internet is bleak, and it's already here. It's going to be a mess, but we can get through this. Sorry for the super rambly experience. I never thought I'd speak so candidly to the world about my feelings ever, but we're looking at some really scary stuff coming up and I just had to get these feelings out there. I couldn't rest with it on my mind, and this won't solve that, but I needed to vent this energy somewhere. I honestly do believe we can all get through this. We've gone through so much so far. And though the world we live in will change, we can change too. I just want everyone to know that this is going to be rough, but we're going to be okay. So, thank you all for putting up with my rambling again, and thanks for watching.